So today I will discuss about PBH baryogenesis and its gravitational wave signatures. So this work is based on this below mentioned reference done in collaboration with Ambor Ghoshal and Wong Samanto. So let's start from the basics of PBH. So firstly, PBH could have formed after inflation during an early radiation era. The most essential requirement for PBH formation is the density fluctuation. They can be produced from bubble pollutions, domain walls, pressure reduction, etc. So we have assumed PBH have mass equal to the energy inside a Hubble balloon, and all the PBH formed at same time, so all have the same initial mass. So this flowchart is our scenario in brief. So after inflation, there is some U1 B minus L symmetry breaking, through which right-handed neutrinos get mass. After this, PBH forms, and with increasing time, there can be a radiation domination or black hole domination depending on the initial PBH energy density. And at some point, PBH will evaporate and produce heavy right-handed neutrinos, whose non-thermal decay might be responsible for baryogenesis. So in the blue line, you can see that minimum possible mass for PBH is constant to be greater than 0.1 gram by CMB. And to not affect the predictions of PBH, the mass should be less than 10 to the power 8 gram. And the remnants of PBH of mass greater than 10 to the power 15 gram can exist till today and can explain dark matter. And later we will see that suitable mass range for non-thermal PBH leptogenesis is 10 to the power minus 1 to 10 to the power 2 gram. So now, according to our assumption, the initial PBH mass can be calculated to be of the order of energy contained in a Hubble balloon, where gamma is nearly equal to 0.2, which depends on the gravitational collapse mechanism. Now, using the Hubble parameter in radiation domination, we can derive the formation temperature of PBH, TBF. Now, since radiation energy density falls faster than black hole energy density, so at a later instant of time, black holes can dominate the energy density. So to quantify this fact, let us introduce a quantity beta, which is the initial PBH fraction over radiation. So if beta is less than this quantity, beta max, then black holes will evaporate in radiation domination. Otherwise, there can be a black hole domination. So from the expression of beta max, it is very clear that for light PBH to dominate the energy density, beta should be much higher. So in the upper right figure, it is very clear that for beta greater than beta max, there is PBH domination. And for beta less than beta max, there is radiation domination. Three benchmark points indicates beta values 10 to the power minus 1, 10 to the power minus 5, and 10 to the power minus 7 for MBH equal 10 to the power 10 gram. So here we show the Boltzmann equations which control the dynamics of PBH and radiation energy density, where Z is equal to TBF by T, and H tilde is the modified Hubble parameter. So after numerically solving the Boltzmann equations, we can see that with the increase of beta value, one gets a large epoch of PBH domination. So later in the discussion, we will see that the large PBH domination is important and can have a great impact on thermally produced lepton asymmetry. So now I will discuss about standard thermal leptogenesis, where right-handed neutrinos will decay to lepton doublet and Higgs doublet. This process is lepton number violating and CP violating. A non-zero CP asymmetry results due to the interference between T-level and one-loop diagrams. And at Ti nearly equal to Mi, out of equilibrium condition is also satisfied. So a net frozen out lepton asymmetry produces, which thereafter electroexfoliant transition get converted to baryon asymmetry. So here I will discuss how thermal leptogenesis is affected by the introduction of PBH. So you can see that the evolution equation for normalized number densities dNn1 by dz and dNb minus L by dz compared they are the evolution equations, and compared to thermal leptogenesis, there is a new washout factor due to the non-zero H tilde minus H, which is strong enough to erase any thermal asymmetry along with the standard intensity. So the evolution of black hole energy density omega BH, the thermal asymmetry NB minus L, and the entropy dumping S tilde are shown in the figure. So you can see that for higher beta values, beta nearly equal to 10 to the power minus 1, a large amount of entropy is dumped into the thermal plasma. S tilde is very high for beta nearly equal to 10 to the power minus 1. And the thermal asymmetry becomes negligible. Whereas for low beta value, nearly equal to 10 to the power minus 7, you can see that the effects of PVH is negligible. So the magnitude of the final thermal asymmetry in presence of PVH can be approximated to be NB minus L final is nearly equal to NB minus L thermal, and this exponential factor, but the exponential factor is the washout due to PVH. Now I will discuss about non-thermal leptogenesis from PVH evaporation. Previously, we have seen that a long period of PVH domination ensures a efficient washout of lepton asymmetry. So for purely non-thermal leptogenesis, a long period of PVH domination is preferred. So now in this flow chart, during the PVH evaporation, n new number of nitrogen neutrons are emitted from each PVH, which during decay violates Cp and so a multiplication factor of epsilon, and after which the produced Cp, after which the lepton asymmetry can be converted to baryon asymmetry to Spalerian transition, where the efficiency of transition is SPH. So YB we can write like this: SPH n nu epsilon NBH divided by S. Now for hierarchical limit of right-handed neutrino masses, the Cp asymmetry epsilon has some upper bound, epsilon 1 less or equal to 3 M1 M3 divided by 8 pi V square, where M3 is the heaviest light neutrino. So using this upper bound, we can get the two constant on the parameter space. For MR less than 2BH and MR greater than TBH, there will be a third constant if the right-handed mass scale is below the PVH evaporation temperature. Now for beta less than beta max, there is non-thermal leptogenesis and radiation domination. So the asymmetry is now dependent on beta, and from the figure it is very clear that for higher beta, allowed region increases. For beta, let's say for beta equal 10 to the power minus 1 into beta max, white region is allowed. For beta nearly equal 10 to the power minus 2 beta max, gray region is allowed. And for beta nearly equal to 10 to the power minus 3 beta max, any allowed region vanishes. The green, blue, and the red exclusion regions are from the three constants which I have shown in the previous slides. So for beta greater than beta max, there is a non-thermal leptogenesis in PVH domination. The asymmetry is now interesting since it is now independent of beta. So from the figure, it is very clear that non-thermal contribution is prominent for very light black holes with mass range of 10 to the power minus 1 to 10 to the power 2 gram. You can see from the figure, and with M1 greater or equal to 10 to the power 11 GeV. So it is now clear that for M ranging from 10 to the power 9 to 10 to the power 10 GeV, non-thermal contribution is subdominant, but correct baryon asymmetry can be produced by thermal leptogenesis in this case. So now I will discuss about how the PVH mass is connected to the symmetry breaking scale. So previously we have assumed that U1 symmetry breaking scale lambda CS should always lie above the formation temperature of PVH TBA. Now from these two conditions, we can derive an upper bound on MBH. This MR and 1 by MR, these are the two conditions, and we can derive an upper bound which will give an MBH max value for a choice of M3 value equal 0.05 electron volt. We get the MBH max equal 13 gram. Now this condition can also be converted to the minimum of the symmetry breaking scale by equating it with the formation temperature TBF at MBH max. So this minimum value of lambda CS can further be lowered considering the full 3 sigma Newton oscillation data. So if for smaller MBH, one can get lambda CS minimum until the maximum breaking temperature is reached. So now I will discuss gravitational wave from cosmic strings. Cosmic strings forms during an U1 phase transition following a spontaneous breaking of abelian symmetry. If the symmetry is a global one, then cosmic string will dominantly decay via particle production. And if this symmetry is local, then cosmic string will dominantly decay via gravitational waves. Our case, it is a local symmetry. The cosmic string tension mu is proportional to the square of the symmetry breaking scale. And the gravitational wave density parameter can be written as a sum over all the Rayleigh densities corresponding to the mode K, where this omega GW Kf can be written as this big expression, where this F alpha is a fraction of loops bound with size alpha. Tau is the gravitational loop emission efficiency, where we have considered tau nearly equal to 50. Tau K is the Fourier modes of tau, and alpha is the loop length at formation in unit of cosmic time. T tilde is the time of gravitational emission, and TIK is the time of loop formation. TF is the time of the cosmic string network formation time, and the C effective TIK is the loop production efficiency.
Okay,
now I will discuss the
4 minutes. Okay.
So now I will discuss the gravitational background in our case. So we take the value of lambda CS mean in the previous slide and compute the gravitational spectra for alpha nearly equal to 0.1 and F alpha nearly equal to 0.1, which we get from the velocity dependent one scale model or VOS model. The resultant gravitational spectrum is shown by the red line. We have seen that the gravitational amplitude is dependent on the cosmological history of the universe. So any non-standard cosmological history like PBH domination would leave its imprint on the gravitational spectra. So any observable break in the gravitational spectra due to the PBH domination and evaporation could be a strong probe of PBH baryogenesis. So where T delta is very close to the evaporation temperature of PBH, and the spectral break can be estimated as F delta is this expression. There could be another gravitational background by gravitational emission by the PBH, but unfortunately this total spectral break cannot be observed by the upcoming gravitational detectors, but the flat plateau of the strong amplitude can be detectable by future gravitational observations. Now I will discuss the prospect of PBH baryogenesis in the light of recent finding of the nanograph 12.5 US data. So for our predicted amplitude at alpha equal 0.1, it is well outside the 2 sigma. You can see this from here. It is well outside 2 sigma at nanograph 12.5. But for smaller loops, alpha nearly equal to 10 to the power minus 3, minus 4, and minus 5 with F alpha nearly equal to 1, gravitational amplitude could be consistent with the nanograph data. So let me now summarize. So we have explored possible baryogenesis by non-thermal leptogenesis from PBH evaporation. In the present scenario, after inflation, right-handed neutrinos get masses through A1 symmetry breaking due to PBH formation, which can result in strong stochastic gravitational background from cosmic strings. We show that for a significant initial PBH abundance for thermal leptogenesis along with inverse decays, there can be a strong washout due to PBH during evaporation. So a long period of PBH domination is required to study pure non-thermal leptogenesis. Parameter space for non-thermal contribution increases with beta for radiation domination, while for PBH domination, it is independent of beta. If the right-handed neutrinos are produced from PBH evaporation, successful baryogenesis by leptogenesis predicts mass scale of right-handed neutrinos as well as black holes. The recent finding by the nanograph PDA of a stochastic common spectrum process, if interpreted as gravitational wave across many pulsars, is in tension with baryogenesis due to PBH for large loop alpha nearly equal to 0.1.